Dear brothers, it's about quality, not quantity.
So guys, it should be your conversation, the way you flow, your presence is enough for a woman to want to be around you, not how much money you spend.
Dear sisters, it's about knowing your value.
My sisters out there, don't be afraid to scare a guy off just because you have standards.
Dear brothers, dear sisters, it's time to come together.
Hey, Happy New Year, my people. And welcome back to DBDS Live, where mature conversations do exist. I'm your host, Mel Money, and I'm here with my partner, Carl the Coach. Listen, my man, it's been a minute, but welcome back. It's 2022. How you feeling?
Oh, man, Happy New Year to everybody, man. Just, like I said, ready to get this year rocking and rolling, man, as well. It's already have really good few first couple of weeks, so yeah, but I'm ready to get the show back to grinding and just keep dropping them nuggets and helping the folk out this year, taking no prisoners.
I hear you, man. I hear you, Carl. And listen, man, 2021 was a great year for DBDS based on helping our anonymous posters or those who reach out for advice to more people joining dbdsingles.com and search for their better half. And shout out to everyone that got married or engaged. Congratulations to your relationships. To also launching our website, which was dearbrothersdearsisters.com, in which we have our own, site that we can help people with courses and coaching sessions and so forth. You name it. Like a lot of big things happen, even to the point that last year we had an all-woman panel called the Queen Takeover, where our sisters were dropping gems, if you remember that call. And listen, to my peoples, if you missed that episode, make sure you go to DBDS Live on YouTube. Just make sure you hit that subscription button. But on top of that, my man, 2021 was a great year, and 2022 will be an even better year. So my question to you is, my man, what advice you have for those who want a healthy monogamous relationship for 2022? Because based on some of the people I spoke to, that's their New Year's resolution. They want a healthy relationship, most of them.
Biggest thing I'll tell people is stop listening to people from Hollywood.
Oh, gotcha.
Stop listening to entertainers. Stop listening to the people who, and I know people say, well, some people make mistakes and, we can learn from them. You can learn from anybody, good or bad situations, right. But they're trying to sell a product. So that's my biggest thing I tell people. They're trying to sell whatever movie they got coming out, whatever book, whatever show they're doing. They're trying to get likes and stuff like that. You got to be real careful with those types of things. But if you really want a healthy relationship, monogamous relationship, the three biggest things I say is heal. Make sure you're healed before you try to date. Number one.
Absolutely.
And that means taking accountability for whatever your actions were in a relationship. I know a lot of people say, it was all their fault. Even if you played 1%, you got to still take accountability. Get healed. Number two, ask the tough questions. Ask them. We're so afraid to ask these tough questions to one another that we feel like if I ask this question, this person's going to leave me. Well, they don't qualify. It's just that. Part of the show we're going to be talking about. Like, they just don't qualify in that predicament, right? Because you know who you are. What your value is. The third thing is, put yourself in positions where there are like-minded people. If the people you're around are not wanting to be monogamous, they're in the open marriages, they're in the open, swinging or whatever else that stuff type of things are, or poly relationships. And again, if that's what people want to do, that's up to them. Let them have it. But if that's not what you want, you got to be around like-minded people to do that. And I guess the fourth thing is, have your heart open to receive someone who's choosing to love you. I will always say that, not somebody that's loving you, because love is a choice. Have your heart open to someone who respects and likes you and is choosing to love you every day. Be open to that, because we're not all the same people. Even though something may look the same, it may not be the same. So be careful with that you don't, end up costing yourself a relationship because you're waiting for a shoe to drop.
Man, listen, those are some very critical points that I hope the audience was taking notes, because those 4 components that you broke down could definitely help a lot of people out there to get the relationship they desire. In fact, I usually don't do this during the opening, but since you're just dropping some fire, let's bring it out, brother. That's already warming up before we bring the guests into the studio. You know what I'm saying? So listen, not only that, man, to the DBDS people, to those that are new to the channel, to those that follow the quotes and everything, we just want to thank you, because without you, there's no DBDS. All right. So we're truly appreciative of all the support and love that you guys give always. Okay. So listen, speaking on some of those points you hit, Carl, today's show is actually related to some of those key areas. And with that being said, our first topic for 2022 is going to be titled, "What is the meaning of knowing your self-worth?" I mean, Carl, there's a lot of people out there that truly don't know what it means. It's almost as if it's a catchphrase and they don't practice what they preach. So what do you think about this topic?
I think it's a great topic to start the year off. And I agree with something you said. A lot there are some people that don't know what their worth is, and it puts them in a bad situation. And then there are some that that think they're worth $1 million and they're not worth 2 pennies to put together. So I mean, it's reality. But we got to understand, again, what you may value, how you may value yourself, someone else may not value you the same way. It's just like if you put a Honda Accord on a Mercedes-Benz lot, it still can get you from A to B. It just doesn't have the value that the Mercedes has. So it's two different things. So, so that's just the biggest thing is, understanding your worth without you being conceited and thinking you're better than people and knowing your worth. And I think that's the biggest thing we can touch on tonight.
Man, very well said. And I'll tell you this, man, before we bring our amazing guests into the studio, I believe, from my perspective, a confident woman is more attractive than a conceited woman, So anyway, I'm going to leave that as a quick little notation there. And we're going to go ahead and bring our live guests into the studio. So listen, thank you everyone for joining us today. I know it's been crazy cold if you're in the New England area, wherever you at, we appreciate you joining the program. So with that being said, it is time to bring our guests into the studio. And the first one coming to the DBDS Live studio, she is well respected and a classy sister. And it's an honor for her to be on the show. It's actually her first time. I reached out to this sister because, man, she's just very, very positive. So welcome my sister Grace into the DBDS Live studio.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Good. Hey, Grace.
We're doing great. So tell the people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and why you're on the show today.
I am Grace. You can call me Rabia as well. That's my Arabic name because I'm a former Sunni Muslim. I reside in Dallas, Texas, but I'm originally from Durban, South Africa. Been here for a long time. I came here when I was 19. I'm an author. What else do I do? I have a ministry called Grace Experience. Help people heal. We work with children and women as well. I'm a mom, of course, of 3 amazing children. That's my greatest accomplishments, of course. And what I want to do is help people to heal in a realistic fashion, of course. I'm spiritual, so I combine my spirituality with practical things. And for me, that creates a beautiful balance, of course. So that's who I am in a nutshell.
That's amazing. And, the spiritual aspect, a lot of people don't touch on that too often, but the energy and the presence and your spirit that you bring can transcend and change people's lives out there. So just to have you on the show is such an honor. So thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, coming into the DBDS Live studio, she's been here before, but this sister, she uplifts other sisters. She has plenty of knowledge, plenty of wisdom. I'm just glad to have her back on to drop some jewels. Welcome, my sister Daniece, into the DBDS Live studio. Welcome back and Happy New Year.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Trammell and Mr. Carl. I love what you guys do here, dear brothers and dear sisters, and I'm all about the uplifting of our brothers and sisters and everyone in general. So I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about myself. My name is Daniece Gilbert. I am a transformational coach. I deal with the mindset. I love dealing with young ladies and, like he said, uplifting and mentoring them, helping them just to be a better and greater version of themselves. So if you are a young lady out there and you're looking to, everything starts with the mind. So I'm definitely excited about this topic tonight. And that's what I do. I help, young ladies transform their mind and two, being a better version of themselves. So, if you guys are looking for that, please don't hesitate to hit me up. And I'm excited for tonight. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you for coming back on. And listen, please get in contact with both these sisters. They're truly amazing people. Daniece, thank you for coming back on, especially on our premiere show. This means the world to us. We appreciate you. And lastly, you thought that was it? Nah, we have one more coming to the studio to drop some gems today. This is also her first time into the DBDS Live studio. She is the prime example of a natural feminine woman, and I'm so glad to have her aboard. Welcome, my sister Patience, to the DBDS Live studio.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Tramel. Hi, ladies.
Hi,
Thank you. Hi.
Nice. So tell the people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and why you're on the show today.
Awesome. Well, my name is Patience Yaboah. Originally, I'm from Ghana, West Africa. I've been here since I was about 14 years old. And I currently reside in Paris, California with my amazing fiance and my 10-year-old son. And while I'm here today, I'm currently actually a background investigator. I work with the Department of Corrections, California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation prison system. I'm a background investigator as a sergeant. And I've been with the department for about 21 years. And we're hiring, so anybody who's interested in working as a correctional officer, please go to our website, cdcr.com, and please apply. We're looking for people of our kind. Unfortunately, we're not applying, and there's so many positions out there. We have 34 prisons throughout the whole state of California. So please, there's job out there if you need to work. However, I'm here today because my fiance was here before, and he is amazing. And this Tramel and Cara, the show is just very positive, and he talks so much about it, and I listen to it, and he had encouraged me to be part of this amazing group, and I'm definitely here to listen as well as to learn, and also to hopefully to be able to put something else out there for someone to learn also. So definitely, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming aboard, and a special shout out to Floyd, to your significant other. What an amazing man, and he is my definition of a king. And according to the DBDS philosophy, the K in king stands for keep yourself together. The I stands for invest in yourself. The N stands for never put yourself last. And the D stands for get down to business. So and he is the definition of a king.
It all. Oh, I'm so glad. Like, honestly, he's an amazing man, and I love you, honey. He's out there actually watching my car. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate his support always. So listen, I believe this is a great topic because, we have to ask that question for those who are in, bad relationships, who truly know, do they truly know their self-worth? And for some people, I think is actually easier to see the worth in others than within themselves. And these are certain brothers and sisters who stay in dysfunctional relationships for years, and because basically they have no standards or relationship principles. And to me, I call that reactive thinking, because we become so emotionally attached to the wrong person that logic, values, and compatibility are completely thrown out the window. Whereas a person who knows their self-worth, they will not tolerate low quality treatment. All right. So the first topic that we're going to touch on to help our audience and our people today to understand what their self-worth means is, and this is a great topic, by the way, set boundaries and stick to them. And this is critical in knowing your self-worth. So let me cue this up right quick. So my thing is that an example would be the first thing that most men, and I'm just going to give you an example that everyone can visualize, but most brothers want sex, and we'll go at great length to achieve that goal. And to my sisters out there who crave attention by constantly showing their asses to the world for male attention, or if you don't know your self-worth, or you just see yourself, you don't see yourself more than just sex, then more than likely it will always put you in a position to be emotionally hurt. But a sister who's looking for a healthy monogamous relationship understands her self-worth and would prefer a man to work for her heart, mind, and soul, or to see if there's any compatibility. And I believe it's her standards is what gives her the right attention for men in which she's very selective. She just won't give her body to any man in order for that brother to commit to her. It doesn't work that way. That's a woman that knows her self-worth. So first, I am coming to my sister Patience. What are your thoughts on this topic?
Wow. Well, first of all, I think it all starts with uh, as a person loving yourself, knowing who you are, and loving yourself first. And I think a lot of times um, it starts with if you're spiritual, you look at how God created us and love us. And sometimes when you look at it in the spiritual aspect of it, you learn to accept yourself for who you are and love yourself. And in terms, you're able to set boundaries of things that you're going to be tolerated or you don't tolerate in a relationship. And I think for me, growing up, I grew up in a home where my father and my stepmother, bless his soul, he passed away 22 years ago, almost 2 years ago. But my dad was married to my stepmother for like 25 years. And from the time that I came into the picture, the relationship was just toxic on her end, not on his end. No matter what he did was never enough. So our home was I grew up in a home where there was no peace, at home. And he dealt with that where as a young woman, I saw that. And I saw the way that he was being treated verbally, emotionally, just every aspect, and none of his needs were even being met. And I felt like I was like the wife to my father because I stepped in to meet his needs, from cooking, doing this, doing that, and so far. Well, at a very young age, I told him, I said, you need to leave this. I mean, I saw it as a young woman. You need to leave her or you're going to die you know. And it got to a point where there was one time where she pushed him off the ladder, and I had moved out of the house, and I
Wow.
lived on my own, and I bought a house like 5 minutes away from them, and he called me, and he was in a panic, and I said, Dad, what's wrong? And then he asked me to come and pick him up. When I got to the house, my father was sitting in front of the bench, and my stepmother at the time was standing at the doorway, and he couldn't walk. He had an umbrella that he was using as a walker. So she's standing there with a smile on her face. And I remember going to my dad, help him, gab him to the car, drove him away. And I told him that day, you got to leave her or you're going to die. And my father's reasoning was he always felt like he has to be the example to us by staying, to the family, to everyone. He has such a high standard to pleasing others that in turns he suffered, you know, emotionally, physically, everything, mentally in a relationship. And I think even though he was a great man, but it's not like he didn't know his self-worth, but the standard that he hold, I have to be a great example to my children or to my brothers and sisters, to family, that he stayed in a relationship that was toxic. So that's something that as a young woman, I learned to never, ever put myself into that situation. And so that carried me throughout my life and all the relationships I've been in, that as soon as I saw something that didn't meet up to my standard or what I felt a healthy relationship be like, I walked away. So I've been very blessed to be able to not tolerate staying in a relationship like that. And especially when I had my son, I had to be example to him also. So I was careful of the men that I brought around him, the way that men treated me or talked to me, because I didn't want my son to think that that's how, it's supposed to be, or how he's supposed to treat a woman or, love himself and love me. So I think as far as setting a boundary and sticking to it is important because, again, once you know who you are and you value yourself enough and you say, no, I'm not going to do it for the children. I'm not going to do it for the family. I'm doing it for my sake, my self-worth. God loves me and he created me. And, you know, and because of that, I'm walking away and it's okay to walk away. So.
Okay. Very well said. I mean, I think that's very important to understand that. And as you stated, listen, self-worth means walking away from what you described from a relationship. I believe that will tear you down instead of building you up. But most people are afraid to be alone, to work on themselves. So I feel like they start operating from a place of desperation,
Right.
trying to get any man or any woman to fill that void. And I try to visualize it as it's almost like you're going to the casino and you're at the slot machine and you're trying to pull that lever and you think you're going to be set for life.
Right.
But when you have that way of thinking, that gambling way of thinking, you're going to come across a lot of people that's not compatible with you, which means you may get hurt in the process instead of being more selective, right? So next, I am coming to my sister Daniece. What are your thoughts on this topic?
Setting boundaries and sticking to them. This, well, we first have to know what is a healthy boundary, from healthy boundaries from that's not so reasonable boundaries. And that all ties in, I believe, with your self-worth. Like Patience was saying, if you don't have self-worth, if you don't have any values, you're basically allow people to rip and run over you. You'll be doing things that you don't want to do. You'll become a yes man. You'll just be doing all of these things that you don't even want to do or that you don't agree with. All because you weren't able to set those healthy boundaries with, and this could be friends and family. Sometimes we tend not to want to set those boundaries because we don't want to come off a certain type of way or seem like we're being problematic. And there are healthy ways to set those healthy boundaries with friends and families. And we have to make sure we do that specifically with family, because family can be the one that cross those boundaries like no other. We all know that. They'll be the ones to still try, and you have to, really set it down. Like, ma'am, I asked you not to do this, especially the older relatives. It seems as if, no matter how old you get, it still doesn't matter. You're a child in their eyes. But we just have to make sure that when we're being reasonable, when we're setting healthy boundaries, that we're being precise, that we're being, very clear about what it is that we want. If that, and hopefully being that they love you and they will respect your boundaries in going forward. A relationship is a two-way street. So, that's pretty much where I'm at. So you have to set them, though. It doesn't matter who you are and what type of relationship it is, from friendships to whatever type of relationship it is. You need to set those boundaries. It's your expectations. It's your values. It's what it is that you want, and you have to know those things going forward so you can be in a healthy, happy place. So that's my opinion on boundaries.
Love it. I mean, very well said, Daniece. I mean, it's facts, strictly facts. I mean, you have to know your value, set your standards, and don't compromise your relationship principles for anyone. So very well said. I'm coming to my sister Grace. Enlighten us on this topic. What are your thoughts you'd like to share on this here?
So set boundaries and stick to them. I think a person needs to know the difference between boundaries and barriers. I think that's confusing sometimes to people. And so the difference between a boundary and a barrier is a boundary is a beautiful space, I call it. A space where your heart is open and you say, okay, this is the line, you're not going to cross it, but we can get to know each other and we can build in this space. But a barrier is like a wall. There's no room for growth. So I think it's important to know the difference between barriers and boundaries, because you see, I had a hard time. The Bible says, guard your heart. Well, it's not hardening your heart. I did not know how to guard my heart without being completely closed off because, past experiences. And so what I did was I researched the word heart, and I found this Greek word. And to guard your heart is your emotions, your will. It encompasses all of that. So I was able to, for me, create boundaries with not just my ex-husband, because I thought when I first got divorced, we can still be friends, right? Because we have kids together. But the more friendly I was, the more he thought, oh, we can get back together. So then I had to create these boundaries. And then when I created the boundary, like all hell broke loose. And I was like, no, you need to stay here. You can't do certain things. So I initially thought that at different times he can come over and have dinner with me and the family, because I was concerned about my kids. You know, they're not used to being in a single parent home. So I actually initially allowed that until one day I was like, no, we can't do this. And then again, like I said, hell broke loose, and then that was fine. Then I'm, African woman. I come from an Islamic background. My mother comes to visit, and she thinks that I'm still that 19-year-old girl that left South Africa. So she has this expectation that I'm moving the same. Well, I don't even think the same. This last visit, y'all, we were like contending. I wasn't rude. I was just like, no, I don't do this. I don't raise my children like this. This is what we do in our house. In my home, it is free. You can talk your opinions, your mind, how you feel, not with disrespect, of course. That, like Daniece was saying, with family, that is the hardest thing. This is my mother, who is this formidable 5-foot woman that strength is ridiculous, right? And I have to get myself to a place where I'm like, no, we are not doing that anymore. And so I had to realize, okay, wait, you're not shutting her off. You're just telling her, look, mom, I am a over 40-year-old woman, and these are the things that we're not doing anymore. And in order for our relationship to even get better and to grow, you have to accept the fact that I left Africa at 19. I am now 46. I'm not the same person. So you know what I did, guys? I asked her, what is my favorite color? And she was like, you like pastel. I'm like, since when you like pastel? That's not my favorite color. So we got to really learn to know each other again. She learned to know the new me with the boundaries, right? Even with children, we can't forget that when you're a divorced person and you're like, okay, I'm ready to date, you got to train your kids in the sense of like, okay, you cannot sleep in my bedroom anymore because one day mom's going to get married again. And you can't be in the same bedroom that I'm with my husband. So these are things that we don't do sometimes. So what happens? Resentment between the person, because now you're becoming this blended family, right? Your child and this man, and you can't do that. It's not fair to either of them. So to me, it's to create that mindset now by creating these boundaries, even for our kids. My kids know you cannot just come into my room. You cannot just storm into my bathroom. Yeah, they're kids and we, in the space, but you can't do that. So, but they know they're welcome if you knock on my door, and I may say, okay, come in, or not. But I think boundaries keeps us accountable and respectful towards each other. So that's what I think about boundaries.
Okay. We're on the first topic, and we're already burning the studio down. So I appreciate everything that you share, and I love your vulnerability on how you presented it to the audience so they can have a clear vision of what you're stating, because there is a difference between barriers and boundaries. So thank you for sharing that. Before I come to you, Carl, I have few comments right here from our sister Lakeisha Jordan. First comment.
Yeah, from Lakeisha. She said setting boundaries is extremely necessary.
All right, that's what she said.
She said, thank you all for discussing this topic. So very imperative to understand. True.
Yes, facts.
Yes, accountability. Yep, it's my favorite word.
Which we'll come back to that in a few. So, Carl, what are your thoughts on this particular topic from a man's perspective?
I definitely enjoy everything my sisters have said on here. Something Grace said, this is, when she used it as a divorced person, well, as her mom, I use that, take it from there. When she was talking about her mom meeting her at this age, she had to, somebody new. They had to relearn each other. And that's the same thing we do as an individual. When we go through something, because you can't set boundaries until you know who you are. You can't set boundaries until when you go through something, a crisis, or whether it's a divorce, a bad breakup, whatever the situation may be, may even be a death. You have to understand, you got to get to know yourself again. You got to know, and in doing so is the only way you'll be able to set the proper boundaries. And like she said, instead of barriers. See, some people are setting barriers, and that's why they're single. Nobody can get through that barrier. Nobody, because just from a man's perspective, we're not trying to break through no wall. If you want to put up, if a woman wants to put up a wall, we're not breaking through those walls anymore. It used to be men will go get a chisel and axe and do all that. those days are over because you end up mentally draining yourself. As a man, your mental health is going, and now that causes a bigger issue, and the resentment sets in. So we don't do that anymore. But if there's boundaries, men will respect the boundaries. And just like I tell men, we have to have boundaries as men. There's an expectation, even from us, of the boundaries we need to set. But I always tell people this: set boundaries that you're willing to follow through with. Set boundaries you know that you can hold somebody accountable to, and you can hold yourself accountable to. It's easy to throw out a list of boundaries. No sex until the 90th day, but you can't go more than 24 hours. So why you're setting yourself up for failure. So when you set a boundary that's going to only fail, that person's not going to respect any of your other boundaries if you keep giving in. If you can't hold yourself accountable to your boundaries, how can you hold this person accountable to those boundaries? So that's what we're talking about. Stick to them. You can't stick, and that's why I said it starts with you as an individual, knowing what you need, what you've gone through, and that's part of the healing process. That's part of understanding who you are as an individual at this point in time in your life. And then when you figure out those core values, and that's where your boundaries should come from, your core values, who you are at your core, who I am. That's where your boundaries should come from, not from what you see on TV or you hear somebody else throw out a boundary and say, "Oh, that sounds good." That's not you, because you're trying to be something that you're not. You need to be you in setting those boundaries, and then you can stick to them. It makes it easy to stick to it, because if you're trying to be something that you're not, you'll never stick to it.
Exactly.
So true. Facts. Facts, man. We are dropping gems today. I love it, man. So listen, speaking of what you just stated, and I'm going to come back to the panelists on this, and I have a follow-up question. So first, I'll come to my sister Patience. But what are some other boundaries that you could share with our brothers and sisters that will help them to obtain and maintain a healthy relationship?
Well, I think everyone pretty much have said a lot of it. Definitely accountability. I think that's a big thing. Definitely holding yourself accountable. And I think Carl said the important thing is setting boundaries that you can yourself follow through to. Because if you set up something that you can follow through and you give it in, why would anybody respect you? And listen to what you have to say. And that goes for every relationship, whether a work, home, children, wife, whoever. I think it's so important that you're able to set a realistic goal, and to be able to stick to it, and at the same time follow through with it, because if you don't value yourself enough to follow through what the standards that you set, nobody else is going to do that for you, and nobody else is going to follow through. So I encourage, know yourself, know your values, and set that standard, and the realistic standard, for yourself and anybody else that you want to set that too, and stick with it. Don't be hot today and then cold tomorrow. I'm okay. Okay, no, okay, because my son, having a son, the same thing. The kids trying to manipulate you, and a lot of times you find yourself want to give into it, and I think Grace said, even in the bedroom, him want to come in and just run into the room, because for so long it was just the two of us, And I remember when Floyd and I first met, that was something that I had to sit down with my son, even prior to that, and said, okay, you've been the man of the house, for all this time. Now there's somebody else, that is coming in. Now this is the man. So now you're the young man, and here's the man, and we're going to have our own rules and, our own part that we all have to stick to, holding my son accountable. He had a list of chores that he's supposed to do. And a lot of times he doesn't want to follow through, and he went, oh, mommy, can I watch TV? But I have to make sure and say, no, did you finish your chores? Did you do everything you're supposed to do? If you haven't, you need to go do it before you watch TV. So I think just anything, boundaries, it all goes with everything you do, whether at work, at home, wherever. You have to set it, you have to stick to it, and it has to be realistic. So
Thank you for sharing, my sister. Question for you, Daniece. What are some examples or boundaries that you could share with our audience that will help them to obtain and maintain a healthy relationship? Anything you
I
can think
love
of?
this. I love this question, by the way. And Patience, I can definitely feel you on that with the children. So one of my biggest examples I would give is saying no. A lot of the times in every environment, like as Patience was saying with work, you may get somebody, because users are going to use, so you may get somebody that come and try to put their load of work on you, and now you have to do 2 loads of work except your own. You may have a friend that wants you to continue to watch her son 24/7, and now you don't have time to do what it is you want to do. You may be studying for school, and somebody wants you to come to every party. You have to, set those boundaries for your life and the things that you're trying to do, your goals, so that you'll have time for yourself and the things that you're trying to do. Because if you're continuing to do what everybody else wants you to do, how will you get to those things, that you want to do? So, make sure, you're able to say no. Don't feel bad about it. You have your own things to do, and if they love you and respect you, they'll understand and try to catch you next time. So saying no is one of those examples for me.
All right. Appreciate that. Yeah, say no can relate to, you're right, to anything. I mean, just to give you a quick example, if you talking to one of my clients, she got into a huge argument with her boyfriend, and this is at the first argument during their relationship. He began to yell at her. He began to use ratchet communication. That's why I call it, when you're um, constantly using obscene language and so forth. And she just took her keys off the table and left the house. And then when she came back, she said, "I don't appreciate you talking to me like that." And she said, if this is going to continue, then our communication has to change. And that brother, he changed, so he don't talk to her that way. They discuss things. He don't yell. But that was her setting her boundary. That was her just doing what she needs to do. So very well said. Now I'm coming to my sister Grace. Same question. I mean, to our audience.
So the thing is, I tell people I'm not a doormat, neither am I a commode, okay? You're not going to wipe your feet on me, you're not going to use the bathroom on me, okay? Because of the environment I come from, of course, right? I'm always going to refer to my background, because if I don't refer to that, then I can't explain how I've come through that and healed, right? So my example is, I used to be very active in ministry. And it was an apostolic ministry, and they expected leaders to be there from the time church opened till it ended, right? Now, everybody got small children. And I noticed that all the kids were so poorly behaved. And I was like, well, we're in the house of the Lord, but why are our kids acting crazy? Until I realized we didn't have a balance. There's no balance. You're in church all day. Your kids are like, to me, that's unrealistic to expect kids to sit in a service all day. So what I did was, I created boundaries. We are not coming to church all day, because what happened in my house is neglected. My children are neglected. They're accustomed to me cooking. I have to come home and I have to wash and clean on a Sunday afternoon. So then they said I was immature. I was not a mature Christian because I wasn't in church all day. But I was like, no, my first ministry is my house and my children. God didn't tell me to build your church. And so that was not well received. But sometimes I think when we're in those environments, we tend to hold on to those words of other people, like we don't hear God for ourselves, like we don't have common sense. And so it creates this in your household, like your pastor's running your house. But you have a man though. So what happens is that your husband or your boyfriend or whatever can't stand the pastor, because the pastor's saying, oh no, pastor said, that guys, you can't do that. Your first ministry is your children and your husband. We need to stop it, like for real though. I don't know why I'm even talking about church, but that's something that I had to like really set the boundaries. And so let's just say after a while I had to leave, because, and the thing of it is, I'm African, right? Obviously. And I was going to a church where the pastor was African. So I assumed he thought I was just going to step in line. But I wasn't raised in church. I was raised as a Muslim. So some things they did, I didn't know. And so I didn't go with the flow. I always ask questions. I'm just that type of person. I feel like if God talks to you, does he not talk to me? I mean, so that was my mentality, and I had to leave after a while. But everyone knew Grace would not be at church from sundown to sunset. Ain't happening. Don't ask me nothing. This is not going to happen. So that's how I was able to create boundaries in that environment. See, because boundaries follows you everywhere. It's not just with your relationships. It's everywhere. Work, family, wherever. If you can't, the reality is if you can't create the boundaries within your family, then you're probably going to have a hard time outside because your family knows everything about you. They know the good things, the bad things. They can tear you down because they know those things. But if you can stand up to your family, everybody else is child's play. You're like, oh, okay, you good.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And you're right. The boundaries do go everywhere you go because that's who you are. You have to set that tone based on how people is going to treat you. You got to have that perception within yourself. You got to have those boundaries in place. And as Daniece stated, healthy boundaries, which is very important. So I am coming to you, Carl, that follow-up question, and then we'll take a quick break. But what are some examples or nuggets you could share with the audience? What boundaries they can have in place to help them in a relationship?
I think it's been said already, the word no. I went back to something I was saying earlier. We have such a fear of what that word will do to someone. And when you tell somebody no, you get to see the true nature of an individual. Because it's something they want and you're telling them no. How much do they respect you? How much do they respect your boundaries? How much do they respect themselves when they hear that no? Because you think about it, when you tell a child no, what do they, you're in a store and they're like, oh, I remember my sons, I think they only tried it one time, but they may try it. I think they tried their mom more, but they may want something out the store and it's a no. And then, then they get upset and they want to pout this and this, mine never hit the floor, nothing like that. I've seen people's kids hit the floor type of thing, but they throw a temper tantrum because they can't get what they want. Adults do the same thing. They just don't lay on the floor and throw a temper tantrum, but there's an attitude. There may be a level of disrespect or whatever because they don't like that. So when you tell somebody no, that's probably one of the strongest boundaries you can set, is having the ability to say no. And it's not saying no to play a game. It's not saying no just so you can see who this person's reaction is going to be. It's a no. I don't feel comfortable doing this. I don't feel comfortable with this, or whatever the reason it is. It's a no, and that's your boundary, and that's your right. The other thing is, even in that no, is having a respect of where you may not want to be bothered, and you need that space. Space is a boundary, and in that space is your mental health, your personal health. We need that, and I think sometimes some relationships just are destroyed because we smother each other because it's all new and everybody wants to be underneath each other and all lovey-dovey and the whole 9 yards, and you want to cuddle and it's great, but you still have to give space. And I think
that's so important.
I think when somebody hears, I need some space, or hey, no, I just don't want to do this tonight, the first thing in everybody else's mind is because society's become an adulterated and cheating society, they think it's somebody else. If you explain that in the beginning and having that conversation, hey, there are some times where I need some space. I mean, I'm that type of person. I love whoever I'm with, my significant. I love to be around her, but I also need my space. So when I get dating someone, that's something she'll understand. I can be around. We can do these things, but I still need Carl's time. Carl needs time for him so I can recharge. I can build myself back up, because that's the only way I can be the best version for her, by me doing that. So that's another boundary that people need to really set, being able to say no and being able to have that space. Those are two important things. And I think a lot of people are afraid of that, because if I say no, they may not want to be around me no more. And if I say space, that person's going to think I got somebody else. And it's truly not that, especially if you articulate and have those conversations with the individual.
Man, very well said, man. Ooh. So listen, my peoples, this is such an amazing topic, but we are going to take a quick commercial break. Thank you all for joining. When we come back, we'll give some shout outs to those that are viewing the show right now. And this is DBDS Live. Don't you dare go anywhere.
So many people are calling for police reform. And so because they're calling for police reform, they may not understand that there are many organizations who are already responding.
And I feel like you have to really get to know people, see if they share the same core values as you before you get involved with them.
I want to ask a question as to how we got to this place right here where mask wearing, where COVID-19, where public health is all politicized. I really want you all to think about this. How did we get to this particular point?
It's really a nice balance when femininity and masculinity can mix together and just create this awesome, experience.
Are you single? Do you know about DBDSsingles.com? Are you ready to meet a quality man or classy woman? The DBDS brothers want you to know that love and loyalty still exists. So if you're ready to meet relationship-ready people, sign up today at DBDSsingles.com. Let's make love and loyalty dope again.
Hey, welcome back to DBDS Live. I am here with my sister Daniece, my sister Grace, my sister Patience, and my DBDS brother Carl the Coach. And we are talking about what is the meaning of knowing your self-worth, which is a very great conversation. And before we dive into our next topics, let me give some quick Facebook shout outs, and I'll read some comments though. But shout out to Alicia Precious, I see you. Jess Marie, Tanya Russell, Alicia Stewart, Jeff Roderick, Heather Thompson, John Lawrence, Andrea Caesar, Paul Speller, Angela Renee, Elizabeth Pena, Carrie Nicole. Shout out to my brother Ken Lawrence. You need to come onto the show, my brother. Toya, Naturally Scorpio T. I love that name, by the way. Listen. And to those I have not mentioned, thank you all for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And to those that are watching right now on YouTube, thank you. All right. So before we go into our next topic, we do have another some more comments here. So here's another comment by our sister, Miss Jordan.
She said, I had to grow into the saying no part of boundaries.
And then Phil Blake said,
Phil said, me too. Yep.
Okay, me too. And another one from my sister.
She said, "Yes, we tend to gain more respect when we teach others how we require to be treated." Absolutely.
And from an anonymous viewer, Grace.
Great show, everyone. Good topics.
All right, keep those comments coming in. And to the audience, let us know what are your examples of self-worth? How important it is for you. So we want to hear. See your comments. That's very important. So the next topic that we're going to touch on related to this conversation is others cannot fill the void you create. They simply can't. And we're going to really go ahead and dissect this topic. So my thing is that when we neglect ourselves of what we need, such as care, support, reassurance, sometimes we tend to look towards others to provide it for us. And then I feel like it then becomes a problem because the reality is others cannot do it for us. And this is why it's so important to understand that if you're damaged, you must fix yourself before you get into another relationship. Because self-care is not selfish. It's a process of healing, accountability, and self-reflection. Right. So first I'm coming to my sister Daniece. What are your thoughts on this topic?
Well, not to get all churchy, but to be honest with you guys, I don't feel like anyone can fill any voids, including ourselves, but God. I feel like that true void and emptiness that you're feeling can only be fulfilled by God. So I just truly believe that you should seek God. But as Tramel was saying, you have to do the work. You have to just explore those feelings, explore those triggers, explore what it is you're feeling, what you're going through, the things that are deepest inside of you, your core. You have to figure out, what's bothering you, what can make you a better person, what are your goals in life, what are things that you're working towards. So in order to do that, you have to fulfill your own happiness, and then when you get with someone else, you know what I mean, you guys can both be happy together. You can't count on somebody else to bring that happiness for you or make you happy or just put all of your stuff off onto them. You want to come fulfilled and whole to another person. So yeah, you don't want to be baggage, so when everybody else say, what are your assets and what are you bringing and what, all of those things, to me, I look on the inside, what are you bringing as a, are you coming whole? Are you coming healed? So because that baggage ultimately is bigger than finances and everything else, in my opinion. But all of which counts, but you just want to be a whole person, and just look, in my opinion, look to God to truly fill those voids. And in my journey, I mean, I haven't been around too long, but I'm not a young buckaroo anymore. But it's I have been fulfilled. My voids have been fulfilled, because drinking, smoking, any of that stuff, sex is not going to do it. People are not going to do it. You just truly, have to seek God for that void.
Oh, I love it, man. That's a mic drop right there. Very well said, my sister. I mean, this is what I tell people all the time. Like, you can't look for someone to complete you when you're not complete. And you're right. I mean, I believe in the Most High above, God. You have to understand that portion in order to get the relationship you desire. So that's very well said. I'm coming to my sister Grace. Please enlighten us, and what else you would like to add to this topic.
I agree with what Daniece says, that God is the source. I always say you're the captain of your ship and you decide, right, the quality of life and relationships you're going to have, but with Jesus at the helm. And that is so true. One of the things I did was, when I was on my healing journey, was that I had to go back. I'm talking back to why I do what I do. Why do I respond this way? Or why do I react this way? Why do I feel this way? Who told me that my thoughts and my emotions were not okay? Who told me that I was broken? Because somebody told me that and I believed it, right? So then you have all these fragments in your soul and you're like, well, why do I have this? So for me, the first thing I did was I had to accept that I'm not perfect, because see, I was always chasing perfection. I will never be perfect. As long as I'm progressing, then I'm good, because life is for living and you have to become a good student of life. Because since you're alive and in this body, you're going to have warfare and you're going to have battles and you're going to have to overcome things. And it's, what is your response to life? If I'm looking for a man or woman or somebody that's a mere mortal like myself, they are going to fail me. Then why would I need God if a person can fulfill me? That's not how God designed it. Yes, we are here for relationships for each other and we hold each other's hands up and yes, all those things. But no person is my source. And once I realized that, I stopped talking like my ex. Well, you made me do this. Well, if I'm saying that you made me do this, then I'm subcontracting power to you. So I'm saying you have power over me. Baby, bye. Never gonna happen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn inwardly and figure out, why does Grace move like she moves? Why? Who told you that, honey? And then go work inside out, right? My ex doesn't even recognize me. Like, he'll say, oh, you're just faking. Because the woman that he knew, you say something, I'm gonna say something back. Now my peace is a priority. If we are texting and it's about the kids, I will respond. If it's not about the kids, I don't need to respond because you are not going to upset my day, sweetheart. You need to take it over there. See, so those boundaries again. And while I'm satisfied is through my faith, through writing, through helping other people. Because when I'm helping somebody else, it takes a focus off myself. Because then I realize, oh, wait a minute. Well, you have the tools. This person may not have the tools. So then pouring into somebody else, if that makes sense. So I don't depend on anybody to make me feel a certain type of way. I expect you to disappoint me. You're a human being. So I create a space for myself to make mistakes and for others to make mistakes. Now, when I say that, there are deal breakers, as we all have. Like for me, disloyalty, I will cut you off quick.
Oh.
I won't even entertain you if you're not loyal, right? That's important to me. And truth, those are two things. Truth and loyalty. There's no need to lie. We are grown.
Yes.
You don't like something, say you don't like it. Because I'm going to tell you what I don't like. And if you don't like it, then that means you're not my person. It's like we all have a tribe, right? So some of us feel like we're too much and, oh, no one likes us or I'm never going to meet somebody. Well, you're just not my person. And that's okay. Because my tribe will find me and then we'll bond. Like, to me, this feels like a tribe. Like, I'm not usually in conversation with people that think the same. Normally, I have to be quiet, don't talk as much. But here, there's this freedom to speak your mind. And that's what you guys have created. So anyway, that's what I think about voids.
I love it. Yes, very well said. I mean, you gotta understand that you have to be whole. I think the key word that Daniece, as well as yourself, Grace, stated is you must be whole. That's the key point. I'm coming to my sister Patience. This is such a great subtopic. What are your thoughts on this, by the way?
Wow, thank you, sisters, for sharing. I think both of you definitely touch on it. Ultimate, really, it's God. Really, at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. And I think, like both of you said, I mean, really, like the topic said, nobody can fulfill that unless you find it. You got people that don't have religion or you have to believe in something, because a person definitely, not even your career, your health, nothing is guaranteed in this world to stay. The only thing that is guaranteed really to stay is God ultimately, So if you don't have that, you can chase after everything and anything. And at the end of the day, you're still going to lay in bed alone, void, empty. And whether you turn to alcohol, drugs, whatever it is that fill you, and that's what most people turn to, But I think when you're able to find yourself and through the eyes of God, and to be able to not be religious, but be spiritual and be on that spiritual journey, to be able to find yourself through that, you're able to feel that, like the sister said, I mean, for me personally, I've been independent so long in my life. And when I met Floyd, for me, I was here, the funny thing was, like, I've never really, I think seeing my dad going through what he went through, in his relationship, I never allow myself to be in an environment where it created so much toxic in me that I was wounded, or I never allowed myself to that point. I always was the one breaking up the relationship and be like, you know what, this is not working for me, so I'm moving on. So when I met him, I think we both were in a position in our lives where we didn't have baggages. We didn't come into the relationship with baggage. I wasn't looking to him to fulfill me, and he wasn't looking to fulfill me. We had so much in common that and the common was God, relationship with God. Both of us wanted to be in that place where we pray together, where now my son is like a prayer warrior, reading his Bible, just creating that environment, and when we're not together, I don't feel void. I don't feel like, oh, I miss him, but not in the sense where I can live without this person, so I think it's so important to work on yourself, find yourself, and create an environment that when nobody else is there and it's just you you're okay. You're okay to be alone. You're okay to love yourself. Go shopping by yourself. Go to the spa by yourself. Like have dates with yourself. You don't have to have the girlfriends or be, with everybody else. Because the older you get, honestly, you can count on your hands the amount of friends that good friends that you have. And so if you don't, you're not able to be like love yourself, be alone by yourself and enjoy it, then what are you doing? So I think it's important to love yourself and be comfortable in your own, in your own space. And when the others are not there, the job is not there, the children are not there, because a lot of times too, relationships, once the children leave the home, the husband and wife, a lot of times now they don't even know how to deal with each other, because the focus was always on the children, and the children, they never really have learned to love themselves alone or each other. And now it's like you're trying to find yourself, so it's important every day, I promise I love shopping, so I'm going shopping, whether I buy nothing or don't buy nothing, but I'm in my space, and I done, and I'll come back and I'm good, so just enjoy what you do and enjoy being with yourself, love yourself.
Okay. Very well said. All right. Amen. I know we're taking the audience on to where's the usher at? Where's the usher to pass the plate? So everyone is dropping some gems here. I appreciate it all. Thank you so much. So before we come to you, my brother Carl, I'm going to pull up a couple of comments. First comment from my brother Floyd.
Yeah. He said, I think oftentimes we are looking for someone to give us love, respect, and value, but we must first give those things to ourselves first. Then you can give those things to others. Correct.
Very well said. Next comment here.
Keisha, she said, agreed regarding the wholeness, Daniece, prior to being fulfilled in a relationship.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, let's see. Amen.
She said, amen, Grace, the peace.
I'm trying to find that usher. I don't know where he's at. But yes, everyone is dropping gems today on this premiere show, and thank you for tuning in. And shout out to Jillian. She just came into the studio. Shout out. Thank you for tuning in. So Carl, what is your thought on this topic right here?
It's so much to it. Sisters is definitely hitting the nail on the head with this stuff. I think the biggest thing is when we sit there and we look at these voids, sometimes, you see these posts where they'll say, I want a man, find you a man that will love all your brokenness back together, all your broken pieces back together. There's not a man out there that can do that. God, truly, we sit this, we speak, God's the only person that can do that. So if you're expecting a man to come put you together, you're already starting the relationship off at a deficit. Yeah. Relationship's already the negative. So this is a ditch that you're in, and you're expecting him to come in and fill this hole that's there. And he doesn't know how to do this. It's like when they say two people equally yoked, even two equally yoked people, that they can't fill the void of another person. It doesn't happen. That hole is there for a reason, and only Christ can fill those holes. That's it. Nobody else can fill that hole. And so when we're stuck in this situation of, well, if he was a real man, he would be able to fill this. If he was a real man, he would have been able to do this. No, it doesn't mean he's not a real man. He's a man. That's the difference. He's a man. He's not a higher power. She's a woman. She's not a higher power. They can't fill these voids. And I think too many people are going in to relationships in a void with a void because they refuse to do the work. They refuse to do the healing. They refuse to take accountability. They refuse to take that hard look in the mirror and do what needs to be done. And so now at the end of the day, they're still stuck in the past relationship. And they're expecting someone to come in new and fix something that the past relationship broke. That's not that person's job. So if you're creating these voids, somebody can't come in there and do that. So I look at it this way, going through what I went through in my marriage and then going through the divorce, the whole thing. I had to make a decision. I can sit back, feel sorry for myself that my marriage in the whole 9 yards in the way, or I could go and do the work. And I chose to do the work. Why did I choose to do the work? Because I still value marriage and I want to get married again, but I have to be the best version of myself for that individual. Too many people are coming in at their worst, expecting the best from somebody else. That's impossible. That's not even fair. I'm not gonna say it's impossible. It's not even fair. So you need to go in, as I tell you, everybody needs to show up their best version to the other person, because that's what you're asking. I'm asking the same thing. So why would you not want to give that? But again, it goes back to a lot of people just are not willing to do the work, even when it's handed to them. So that again, so if that whatever voids people are creating, whatever void that you have in your life, that has to be fixed, filled in, new construction, new roadway pavements, like potholes in the city. Nobody wants to drive a brand new car over those city streets in New York. They don't. They want that road paved. So if you're looking for this new car to come down your road, you need to pave that road. And the only way you can pave that road is you got to fill in those holes and then put that new pavement on top. And it's nice and shiny. It's nice and new. And now that new car can come roll on in and come get you.
Woo. Man. Woo. Fire. Very well said, my brother. And speaking of what you just stated, Carl, I do have a follow-up question for you as well as our panelists. So my thing is, we hear so many brothers and sisters blaming others and trying to find someone to fill that void. So my question is, why do you think accountability is like kryptonite to a lot of people? Now, and I'll come first to Grace. Like, why people don't want to take accountability for some things?
People don't want to take accountability because we're not honest with ourselves. We want to be honest with everybody else except yourself, because you see, you have to face the ugly truth. You have to face the fact that you may not be a nice person, that you actually initiated hurt, or you actually were rotten. You were the cheater. You were the one that did these things. But you don't want to be honest with yourself. So you're lying to yourself. And the worst person you can lie to is you, because you're never going to move forward. You will never be better. You will stay in the spin cycle like a hamster on a wheel, and you just keep going and keep going. And then that's insanity, right? You're doing something over and over again, expecting different results. Or you want to pray and say, Lord, send me this man. But what have you done? What are you doing? You're the same rotten egg that you were 5 years ago. You have no traction. You have not changed. You haven't even tried. And you're blaming other people. I told my 19-year-old, I said, listen, you're probably going to have to go to therapy, which she does go to therapy. I said, before I came into myself, I made mistakes. And I've apologized to my kids. And I said, listen, if you feel a certain way, tell me and we'll talk about it. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm not going to tell you, well, I did it because of this. I'm going to apologize to you, okay? And we'll get help and we'll move forward from there. But at the end of the day, you're now an adult. If you feel a certain way, go to therapy, go get help, talk to somebody. I create an environment where you can go for help. We talk about, literally anything. Like my mother was so outdone because we were not allowed. We didn't have voices. And she was like, oh, they're going to disrespect you by speaking their truth. Really? So that's why people, they don't want to do the work. It's too hard. Is it hard? Absolutely, it's hard. Looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, you know what, I am a terrible person. And I wouldn't want to be with someone like me. Rabia, I don't like the way you talk. You don't know when to be quiet. You don't know when to use wisdom. And those things are real. Because the reason why a lot of people, like I'll use myself as an example. I was in an environment where I didn't feel safe, right? So when you don't feel safe, you feel like you need to self-preservation. So you're always on. There's never a time that I felt relaxed in my marriage, right? So I was always defensive, okay? Well, yes, did he create the environment like such? Yes, he did. But what was my reaction? I was never responding. I was reacting. So I made the environment even worse. It was only when he was no longer here, I realized what I contributed. Because I don't care what people say. And this is just a disclaimer. If you meet a man or woman and they're divorced and they're only talking bad about their ex, run the other way. That is a red flag. If you cannot admit your mishaps,
Yes.
Something's wrong with you, baby. Go to therapy, heal something, because you're not ready for it. You are not, because you can't be honest, right? So yeah, that's what I think about. I mean, I could go on, but I won't. But that's what I think about that. I feel like we need to turn inwardly and be completely honest with ourselves, with our children, with people that we hurt. You can't go through life apologizing to everybody. That's not realistic. That's not going to happen. But you can stop doing what you were doing by looking at yourself in the mirror. And sometimes, for me, I used to tell the Lord, show me me. Like before I filed for divorce, I said to the Lord, if it's me, I take it, Father, I repent. Show me me. And I'll change whatever needs to be changed. If it's me, I accept it. It still resulted in divorce. But best decision I ever made, to be honest, because there's peace in my home. So.
Okay, man. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story. We greatly appreciate it. And before I come to my sister Patience with the same question, we have some amazing comments, by the way. So I'll come to my sister Ville Blake.
I always ask men when I meet them, what part did you play in your last relationship not working? If they begin with "she made me," I already know accountability is an issue for him.
Okay. Very well said, Ville. That's very true. Got to pay attention to that. Yeah, we see it all the time, Daniece. With this question right here, I see a lot of people that always point, and there's three fingers pointing back at them. But why are people so afraid to take accountability? What are your thoughts?
Accountability, responsibility goes hand in hand, and with accountability is you saying, hey, I made a mistake, and with making a mistake we have to fix the mistake and or apologize and take ownership of it. Like Grace was saying, we don't want to, a lot of people walk around in denial. They're playing the blame game, as you just stated. And as Grace was saying, they don't want to say, well, I'm the problem. I believe in taking accountability for everything, even including the things that you really did not do because you allowed a person to do so. So in certain cases, I believe at looking at every situation, like, what is it that I did in this situation? And a lot of people, to be honest with you, do not do that. They want to live in denial. They're not mature enough to really say, I made a mistake. We all should be looking to be, none of us are perfect people. But we all should be looking to be better than we was, to make things right. We have to live together. We want to try to live in harmony. And sometimes even when we're not trying to, we may hurt somebody. We may do something wrong. So, all you have to do is just, apologize and try to fix it and figure out, because we don't know, I don't know Grace from back when she was a childhood. I don't know, Patience triggers. I don't know these things about these ladies, but if we try, as Coach Carl was saying, to tell people and to really set those boundaries, that can really help in situations like this. And then just taking accountability and being responsible for when we don't do things correctly. Just fix them. Be in love. Show love to each other and just try to fix it and work it out. And you should be able to move past all of that. So just show love.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, because I see it across the spectrum. Even some people and clients that I talk with, and they refuse to take accountability, and I feel like that can be contributed to why they are still not in a healthy relationship. Because you do have to look inward. You got to figure out what it is that has put you in that particular position, so that way you can correct that error moving forward with the next person.
Correct.
So coming to my sister Patience, why do you think accountability is kryptonite to a lot of people out there?
Well, I think first and most, I think a lot of times accountability is taught when we're younger, being held accountable to, as a young person. And that's something that we're trying to teach my son, being held accountable. It starts at a young age. So when you get older, you're able to recognize, um, when you're not being accountable, when you know things are not the way they need to be, you need to apologize. You know, so I think it's very, very important to start out with our children at a very young age. And I think a lot of times, a lot of us never had that one held accountable. You know, I worked in prison for a long time, and I had men and women who I sat down with and was told that I was never told no. I was never this. You know, if
Wow.
somebody had said no to me or hold me accountable to my behavior when I was younger, I wouldn't even be here. You know, and so for me, at a very young age, it was very important to me with my son. And I used to tell him, I would come and I'd be like, look, if you end up anywhere other than where you're supposed to be, that's a choice you made, not because you weren't held accountable as a young man from a very young age. You know, so and if something is out of whack, we talk about it. Like Grace said, we have created environment, you know, a home where we can all talk about things, not being disrespectful, but talking about it and your voice being heard and holding each other accountable. And we hold him accountable. He hold me accountable all the time, you know, and recognizing it and say, you know what, baby, you're right. I'm sorry, you know. And so that transition into adulthood, into relationships. And I was in a relationship with someone prior to my relationship with Floyd. And when I first met this person, he had just recently been divorced. And I think Grace said he never took accountability for the relationship. So when I met him, the first thing, he was the victim in this relationship. From the bottom down to the top, everything, he was the victim. So again, me, you know, being the person I was, I said, look, there's three sides to every relationship, right? Your side, her side, and the truth. Okay. So you're going to tell me your version. She's going to tell me her version if I ever get to meet her. And then there's going to be the truth because that's your version. So me being the new woman, I guess he was expecting me to hate her or, you know, be in agreement with him. And I was like, no, I'm not taking nobody's side in this situation. You know what I'm saying? But the problem I'm saying that you are not taking accountability for where your wife left you. And the reason was he came from Africa here. Him and his wife were married, had a baby. Once they had the baby, few months, the girl mom lived up north, Sacramento area. So they decided to go visit. And when they went there, the wife, ex-wife realized that, you know what, my mom is here. She can help us. So let's move out here. I'm working, you know, and this, and that. He said, well, your mom is trying to control the relationship. So no, I'm not going to move there. So they came back down. The wife packed all her stuff and she left with the baby. And so he tells everybody, well, she left me with nothing. She just up and left. And I said, so one day I just said, look, as a single mom at the time, I said, as a single mom, I said, do you understand childcare in America? Even with 2-parent homes, okay? You don't understand that. So you could have put your pride to the side, move out there, get a job, help, and you have just came to this country. You don't have a job. Supporting you. Okay. So put that pride to the side, go up there, do what you need to do. Then you and her can later on move. But right now, even her working to pay for childcare, that's a lot. So again, in his eyes, well, you're not being supportive of me because I'm the victim. And I said, well, you got the wrong one, baby, because I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with that. You need to hold yourself accountable and either go apologize to your ex-wife for leaving. I say you left your family, you abandoned your family, and that's what you're not understanding. And it's not okay with me. And of course, you know, I love the relationship, obviously, but I think a lot of times people love to be the victim instead of seeing themselves like elder sisters and everyone have shared. You know, look inward and see what did you play in that relationship. You know, and a lot of people are not willing to do that. And again, sometimes it'll boil down to not being taught, being held accountable when we're younger. And then when we get to adulthood, we don't know what that is. So please teach your children at a young age, hold them accountable. You know, if they don't do something, hold them accountable. And so when they get older into adulthood, they understand what accountability is. And then they have a relationship, they're able to incorporate that and have a healthy relationship.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story, Patience, because those that don't have that mindset, you know, sometimes it can be converted over to toxic entitlement. You know, they think they have that victim game and they believe everything is owed to them, you know, so that can cause nothing but a bad way to go in a relationship. Before I come to you, Carl, I do have some comments right quick. Shout out to my sister Natima. We need you for Queen Takeover Part 3. You hear that echo? Let's see what my sister Natima has to say. Oh, Carl, you mute. Oh, there you go.
She said most people have a hard time saying I'm sorry and or I need help.
Yeah, I agree. Very well said, Natima. My brother Floyd.
He said, I think accountability always points the finger to you, the individual, and away from anyone else. You have to take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I truly someone that I would want to be with? I had to ask myself that question, and to be honest, I was attracting what I was not who I wanted to be. I had to heal and become a healthy individual to attract a healthy individual.
Very well said. You attract what you are. Thank you, Floyd, for that amazing comment. My sister Ville.
She said, yes, I always talk about accountability and responsibility with my son. I've done this since he was able to demonstrate his own choices and understanding. It's very important.
Okay. Next one from a Transformer. Well, we'll skip that comment. Next one back to my sister Natima.
She said, accountability has been replaced with cliches like, I'm not perfect or God's still working on me. We make excuses for our poor choices and our inability to accept the consequences of those choices. We place the blame on everyone but the person in the mirror. Yep.
Damn, you hit it right on the nail, Natima. And for example, to me, proactive people, which they are driven by standards and principles, they look at the word responsibility. They break it down as the ability to choose your response, right? That's how they see things, and that's how they hold themselves accountable and understand that word. Very well said. Natima again.
She said, hey, DBDS family.
Hey, Natima, Happy New Year. Tell Morpheus I said what's up. And last one from Natima.
She's so ready for the Queen Takeover Part 3. Yes.
Ooh, that all sister panel is gonna be fire. Yes. So, Carl, I know this is a huge part of your coaching sessions that you have with people. How important it is to have accountability, and why so many people are afraid to take accountability. So, those are two portions of the question.
Yeah. Most people don't want to take accountability because, again, it just shows that, hey, I might have been wrong. I might have made a mistake, or I might have been the one that caused the issues. That's the biggest thing right there. Because it doesn't feel good, you know. Plus, they have to change their narrative, especially if they're running around playing the victim to everybody. You know, they're no longer the victim when they start taking accountability. You know, they turn from victim to villain in essence, in a way. And so nobody wants to be the villain. You know, we always talk about that. You know, nobody wants to be the bad guy. Nobody wants to be the bad person.
Right.
You know, so at the end of the day, that's one of the struggles I think a lot of people have. You know, I always tell people, I said, you know, despite whatever went on in how my marriage ended, the first thing I had to do was take a look in the mirror. I couldn't get anywhere until I looked and said, okay, you know what? I could have done this a little bit better. I could have done this different. I could, you know, and I was, I don't care if it's 70-30, 80-20, 50-50, 94 to 6 on what happened and you're 6% wrong. There's an accountability aspect that you still need to take, even on that 6%. You have to take that accountability there, and they're not willing. Most people are not willing to do that. And the other thing is fear. It's fear of taking, you know, it's the fear of the unknown. How will people view me if I admit that I was wrong? How will people view me if I take accountability and say, you know what, I messed my marriage up. I hurt my wife. I hurt my husband. How are people going to view me? And I think more people would look at them and respect them for being open, honest, and transparent than to go the other direction of finding out later on, well, you basically lied, with this situation. Like I said, I've lived it. I kept my mouth shut. The truth came out. Truth always comes to the top, like the cream rise to the top, and truth rose to the top. I didn't say nothing. Now you got to sit there and deal with that. I don't. So that's why I always tell people, just be accountable to that. And and it's important. It's like that part of, to me, the part of the accountability part comes also to like the forgiveness. When you're taking accountability, you're forgiving yourself too at the same time. When you're you're forgiving the other too. And those are things that you need to have so that you could be healthy and whole. So when you're willing to sit there and say, you know what, I can be accountable. You know what, I did this, and I got to forgive myself for this. Now you can move forward, because you're sitting there. The unwillingness to be accountable is toxic. All you're doing is holding on to something evil, something wrong, and a lie to make you feel better. And how do you sleep at night? You don't.
Right.
You don't. You're adding stress. You're adding other things to your body, things that you don't need to have, and you don't have peace. There's no real peace. That smile's fake. Your body action, everything you're doing, the laugh is fake. Nothing's real because you're living a lie because of your unwillingness to take accountability.
Wow.
Fire,
man.
It's true.
Very well said. And from Sister Natima to you, Carl.
Come on, Pete, and help us in here, Carl. I got you, sis.
Yeah, we got you, sis. Hey, listen.
Oh, that's good, Mel.
Yeah, we got you, sis. Hold on. So listen, we're gonna go ahead. That was a really great session. We're gonna go ahead and take one last commercial break. But when we come back, and thank you everyone for this journey. Our premiere show is so lit. We have so many people on the DBDS studio chat room. But we're gonna come back and we're gonna do two more things. We're gonna hit you guys off with one more topic and our Jerry Springer moment. So sit tight. Don't you dare go anywhere. This is DBDS Live. All right. Welcome back to DBDS Live. Listen, this has been nothing but gems. I'm here with my sister Grace, my sister Daniece, my sister Patience, and my brother Carl the Coach. And listen, we just been dropping a lot of different gems based on what is the meaning of knowing your self-worth, because a lot of people don't understand it. Sometimes they use it as a facade, or they're in these bad relationships and they're telling other people know your self-worth, but they're not practicing what they're preaching. So we really getting down to the nitty-gritty here. So we're going to go ahead and dive into our very last topic of the show today. And the last topic is understanding your value points. Let me tell you, if you don't know your self-worth, then these points will be irrelevant and you can be in a very dysfunctional relationship. So let me go ahead and cue this up here. So my thing is, now I see this so many times where too many people, I believe, allow their preferences to overcompensate their standards. And from my perspective, your standards are rooted in your morals, is rooted in your values, whereas your preferences are related to numbers and things. For example, you may prefer a brother or sister who makes $100,000 a year, but that does not define a high quality man or high quality woman. Because what if she makes or he makes an abundant amount of money, but they constantly yell at you by using ratchet communication, or they tend to abuse you emotionally, physically, or mentally? Now, I'm going to ask the people out there, are you going to compromise your standards to meet your preferences? In other words, are you going to neglect your value point system just to put on a facade that you're in a relationship and you can show off to your friends on social media? No. The reality is that it's not knowing your self-worth, right? So first, I'm coming to my sister Daniece. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
Like you were just saying, understanding your value points, it just truly boils down to what makes you tick. What inspires you, what are the things you like to do. And I think it's very important when you're choosing the people that you decide to deal with on a day-to-day basis. They say the 5 closest people to you, your monies is the average of those 5 people closest to you. So, I mean, it is very important, the people that we're on the phone with, the people that we're listening to on the daily basis, the person you decide to, they even say the person that you marry, it determines how successful you're going to be in life. So it is very important you take the time to really figure out what it is that you value, because this is going to help you decide every factor in your life, including down to the people that you're surrounded by. So, it is very important. And I was one of these people, and I had to learn not to do it. I'm a very friendly person. Everybody comes up to me, and that's fine. But you have to choose the friends and the people that you decide to be involved with or you be around, because you will, with attracting those people, you can attract the wrong people, and they will not. I've had so many homegirls, growing up and all through school, the cute girls and you dress cute and this and that. And when they find out, oh, well, Daniece really loved God. Oh, Daniece isn't gonna do everything, I'm not gonna do everything, so when they find out that my core values did not add up to what it is they were trying to do, oh, well, then we're no longer friends. So you just have to really figure out what it is that you value in life and write that down. Take that time to yourself and really figure it out, because you're going to have to stand strong on your values. You're going to have to know yourself and what it is that you want out of life and those people that you're surrounded by. So to me, it's one of the most important things you can do. And we're constantly growing, as people, we're constantly growing. You should be looking to grow every single day. I'm embarrassed by some of my posts from 10 years ago on Facebook, and I look at that as a sign of growth, so I'm just being honest here, so
appreciate the vulnerability.
So we should be constantly growing. So that paper and those values and those core values and everything are going to change. They should change. So look deep within inside yourself and constantly do the work. This is an everyday thing. We're going to constantly be doing this work. We're going to constantly try to be a better version, and we wake up and just try to be our best, put our best foot forward and be better. So
very well said, my sister. Love it. My thing is what you just described, Daniece. I mean, people who don't have a value point system are mostly reactive people who are mostly, I feel like, are driven by feelings, which tends to, as we discussed earlier, tend to miss a lot of red flags out there. Whereas I think proactive people are more driven by standards and values, and they understand that your behavior, I think, is a product of their own conscious choice based on values rather than a product of their conditions based on feelings. So I really love what you stated. Another reason why Carl and I don't emotionally evolve or get in arguments with people on social media, because we're proactive people. We're not going to go back and forth based on how you feel and argue. Those are what reactive people do. Or somebody beep the horn and then you want to chase them and have road rage and try to chase them down. That's a reactive way of thinking, right? So next I'm coming to my sister Patience. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
Well, definitely, I think Daniece said well. Honestly, I think for me, some of my value point is I love peace.
Peace.
Yeah, I love peace. So I want to be in an environment where it's peaceful. I want to be around people I don't like stress. you know. So I think a lot of times when you know your value, you know your value points, you're able to surrender yourself in an environment where you create. And a lot of times people don't, even if you ask the person, they may not even know what their value point is, you know. And if you don't know it, then unfortunately you're able to um, just go through life and be misguided. And again, it all goes back, everything goes by your core values when you were younger, what you were taught. And like Daniece said, about as the time go by, it changes, you know. And for me, like even now as an adult, I find in myself where some of my values right now, I feel like, because technology is, we have phones attached to our hip every day, 24/7, every second, every minute. So I don't have the energy and time when I call someone, I reach out to you as a friend, and it takes you 2-3 days to respond, or don't even respond, and then you want to respond back later and like, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so sorry, I didn't see that, whatever. And sometimes, and for me, I'll cut you off because I'm like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for a person that you don't, obviously I'm not important to you. Your value is, you have other things that is important to you, and you're not, um, bringing me any peace, because here I'm sitting here, maybe waiting for you to call me back, with something important or something, whatever it may be. So a lot of times, I think as an adult, and that's now that we're all growing up, you have to find those friends that bring you peace, a relationship, everything. And peace is important. Like I said, I value that so much, and because I've seen so many people health, the relationship deteriorated because they don't have you know, that value point. They don't value themselves enough to be at peace with themselves, and they tolerate all this nonsense. And, again, it all boils down to the boundaries and setting up peace and just creating that boundary to be able to value yourself enough. So,
yeah, very well said, my sister. I have a saying with my wife, not only that she is my PIECE, but she is my PEACE. We both bring that forth towards each other. So that's very important. You got to value peace. Me being a communication major and so forth, it's not sometimes what you say, is how you say it. And, it goes a long way in any relationship, because you're trying to figure out more of the solutions when there's a problem that comes about. And as I stated earlier, Carl and I, we're not reactive people. My wife and I, we're not reactive people. We don't even argue. We have discussions, But a reactive person will always, always just go from 0 to 100 real quick, very fast, So we just got to reverse that mindset, my people. Next, I'm coming to my sister Grace. What are your thoughts on this topic?
So to me, you really can't have self-worth unless you have self-acceptance and self-love. All those go together. To me, I can't separate it in my mind. My personal journey was when I accepted everything about myself. I'm talking about, like, I went back. I'm the queen of going back. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna get every piece. I'm gonna analyze it. I'm gonna say, girl, you were wrong. You shouldn't have done that. I mean, and then I expect the same from others, which most people don't do that, right? But anyway, so once I accepted myself, all the ugly bits, right? I had a lady, she was from the Caribbean. And most foreigners are so blunt, y'all. Like, me and Patience are being cool, but she knows how that is. The bluntness, I mean, it's, yeah. She told me one day, she said, Rabia, just admit that you are a B. And I was like, wow, I love her. Like, she was honest, right? So we developed this relationship. And then she told me, she said, you need to love yourself. And I did the work, right? At the time, I wasn't going to therapy, but I did a lot of self-work. And my niece sat me down and she said, Auntie, you've done a lot of work, but I think you need somebody else, like, like a professional person. And that, y'all, took me to another level, because that was when I was able to really look at myself. Now I could put the labels on it. Okay, so why do I accept this behavior? Why do I think my value is so low? Once I was able to piece all that together, Now you can't tell me nothing, right? There's things I'm not going to accept. Like I can hear within 3 minutes, literally, of a conversation with the guy, I already know, sir, I'm rounding this up in about 2 seconds because I'm not going to waste your time and you're not going to waste my time. To be honest, I don't really like to be on the phone for a long period of time. Unless, and I'll tell people, unless we talk about how to make money, cash money legally, okay, stuff like that. So I learned that, okay, I am valuable. I am good enough. I am worthy to be loved. I'm worthy of love. I say these affirmations to myself. And I talk myself up, and I've learned to do that because, guys, the reality is that every day is not a good day. Every day is not filled with peace and, roses in your backyard and, the sun is shining and the freaking birds are chirping. That's not reality because that's not reality. But you learn to do the work. When I'm feeling this way, asking yourself, why do I feel like this? What triggered me? And working again from the inside out and then being able to stabilize how I'm feeling and not be so reactive. And so when I went back to myself and like did the work and accepted myself, listen, I realized what I'm not going to accept. Like there was a guy that tried to talk to me and he told me he was an ex football player, but I don't know nothing about football, right? So I'm not really impressed because I don't know what you're talking about. Y'all, you could hear he had a lot of concussions. He had to have had concussions. Nonsense. And he was like, everybody wants me for my money or they want me for my status. And I'm like, but you led with money. You said, I want to buy you this. I said, no. You said, I want to fly you out. Now I'm like, what woman is going to fly out with a man she doesn't know? I asked him, are you mad? Like, are you mad? Who does that? Like, where are you meeting this woman? And I literally blocked him after a 30-minute conversation. I'm not impressed because the reality is, I think one of the ladies said, it's not about money. Because if you want to go buy something, I can go and buy it. I don't need somebody, right? So my word tells me that whoever I meet, we're going to be compatible, of course, mentally, right? We're both going to do the work. I'm not coming to you broken. You're not coming to me broken. Of course, we'll meet certain needs with each other, but I don't need you to survive because I know myself enough and I love myself enough to work on myself. Well, a lot of people will think, well, somebody completes you or I need this person. You don't need anybody really. They should be a welcome addition because when you come, I mean, this is going to be like my second marriage. I cannot go like, oh, messed up and expect this man to work so hard. Like Carl was saying, tipping away. Like, man, what makes you so that this man must work extra hard and his mental is not right? And so we're coming with children, right? Because I have smaller children, like my youngest is 11. That's work too. So we as women are not considering all these things. They're not just marrying you, they're marrying all of you. So if I'm not going to do you peace and then I must come with these children, I mean, can you imagine? But anyway, that's what I think about self-worth.
I'm loving these answers. Wow. Here, first live, DBDS Live. All our sisters are dropping very critical information that can definitely help you in your relationship. So I'm coming to my brother Carl. Man, the sisters, nothing but fire, man. What are your thoughts on understanding your value points?
I think it's very important, but it goes back to something I said earlier. It's your core. See, you got to have your core values. It starts there. You can build from that part. Once you understand your core values, whatever they may be, everybody's just different. I don't want to start listening to things. It might not work for certain people, but whatever your core values are, what your core beliefs are, that's where you build your value point from. That's where you understand your value system. If you can't get there, you're never going to make it to that point of understanding how valuable you are as an individual, because nobody else is going to see it. So if you don't have your own values, you don't know what your values are. How do you expect somebody to respect your values? How do you expect somebody to appreciate your values? How do you expect someone to again, operate with you, date you with those values, because you don't even know them. If somebody was to ask you, what are your values? You ask somebody that question, people will look at you crazy and they're like, what do you mean? You know, what do you mean? What's my value? What are your values? What are your core values? What are your beliefs? And I think that's where a lot of people get away from that. So you got to understand those things and know those things off the top. So you can have that conversation early on, and that allows them, the other individual, to make a decision whether or not they're able to handle how valuable you are.
Right.
Because you may be a diamond, and they can only handle a cubic zirconia.
Oh,
reverse may be you might be a cubic zirconia, and they're looking for a diamond. your value may be substandard to what they want. So I think those are things that people don't understand. But that's the conversation. That's how we match up with the right people. Sometimes, in some cases, I think we can become friends with people who we may have thought that, hey, I could have had a relationship with this person, and you become friends with them because there's some things that don't line up, but you guys have a lot of things in common. You can still be friends. But a relationship to go to that next tier, that we're building something together, we're wanting to be partners, and we're talking marriage down the line. Your values have to line up. I'm sorry, they have to, because if you have one value that I don't have, just say if somebody's like, okay, and I know this is a value, just using it as an example. If somebody says drugs is cool, I want to smoke weed every day. That's not something, if somebody values smoking a blunt every day, that might not be for somebody else. What I'm saying? That individual may not want to deal with a person that's doing that every day, or somebody gets drunk every day. It's one thing to have a drink, but you're getting drunk every day. That's where if your value is into turning to alcoholism and drugs to get through stuff, if your value is being disrespectful to people, and if you're there, why would someone want to be with you? So, again, understanding your values, which should come from your core and who you are. And again, I tell people this: just because you're raised a certain way doesn't mean you have to stay that way. That's an excuse from the pit of hell. Seriously, really is. A lot of people use that and say, well, I was raised this way. What does that make it right? Because you were raised that way? This is the values they taught you.
Wow.
Well, they're wrong. I'm sorry, they're wrong. And I think a lot of people don't want to change and don't want to take that look. And that's, again, it goes back to accountability, because you don't want to look at your family and say, well, you guys raised me wrong. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes our parents don't know. Sometimes people, grandparents don't know. We don't know. And we got to do better. I try to teach my sons better every day. That was the thing for me when I came out my marriage. I sat down with my sons and I talked to them and told them that the mistakes that I made as a husband and things that I could have done different, so that they don't make those mistakes when they get older and they start dating and they start choosing a mate. That I had to shift. I had to teach them what was valuable. And again, what I may value, somebody else may not. So I'll end it with this. And it was a discussion I had with someone. You may see yourself being valuable, and there's nothing wrong with that. If another person doesn't see the same value that you do, don't take that offensive. Thank them for being honest. There's not a discrepancy there. If I value you and you don't value me, it's not going to work.
True.
And I think a lot of people get offended by that, but you have to know who you are as an individual so that you can articulate your values, what your expectations are, so that person can make a decision whether or not they can meet those standards.
All right, brother. Oof. All right. Thank you so much, Carl, for your insightful thoughts, man. Very well said, my brother. And listen, thank you all. I mean, we know we stated that the show was from 6 to 7, but when something gets this good and the message needs to get across, it needs to be heard. And we appreciate everyone for listening to the show. So now it's time to pivot to our Jerry Springer moment. This is the time we find out who the baby daddy is. No, this is the time. This is the time that we find out let me see. Let me backtrack. So this is the time that we do a summarization of the show, so we can just give our last message to the audience. So first, I am coming to my sister Patience. What are your final thoughts for today's show?
Wow. Oh my goodness, you guys, thank you so much. Carl, Terrell, Grace, and Daniece. It has been an amazing topic, and wow, so much learning, so much insight, and it needed to be said, definitely. I think just to summarize everything that we talked about, wow, knowing our self-worth, gosh, accountability, our values, and all these things. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it all just boils down to they all go together. You couldn't have one without the other. You have to know, you have to set boundaries, definitely. You have to say no. You have to know yourself, and you have to have values. And I think they all go together. And once we all start practicing that, put them into practice, and going into a relationship, whether a romantic relationship or just any relationships, it all applies, applicable to each other. And I think it will make us such a better individuals. And, again, I thank you so much for having us, here. And I hope and pray to God that someone out there was able to definitely be touched by what was said this evening and be able to apply it to their lives. And I'm definitely taking everything that was said and applying to my life and my family and everything else. And definitely it was amazing. So thank you everyone for sharing your life, Grace, Daniece, and Carl, just every one of you, just being so vulnerable and personable, and just being true. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, my sister. And we appreciate you coming on to the show. Don't go anywhere. Before I come to my sister for her Jerry Springer moment, we got a comment from Carl's mother, the great Mrs. Serrette. Let's see what she has to say.
She said, "Happy New Year, everyone. Great topics. And the usher has passed the plate filled with a great amount of knowledge. Thanks."
All right. Appreciate it. Other comments from our people.
From Lakeisha, she said, "So good."
Yeah, so we're going to continue to give you great shows, Lakeisha. Appreciate it. Elizabeth, okay.
And Elizabeth said, "That was great."
All right, and one more from Lakeisha.
And then one from Lakeisha. She said, "Excellence with fire."
All right, appreciate it. Thank you all. Thank you. Now I'm coming to my sister Daniece. What are your final thoughts for today's show?
Well, I was the pappy at the baby boss, but no, I'm kidding. I just wanted to say, that, don't be afraid to do the work. Don't be afraid to hold yourself accountable. Make sure you get other people around you that hold you accountable. I think that is really, really important. So, do the work. Don't be afraid to go. I personally have coaches. I have mentors. I have. I'm in church. The pastor. Just those friends that are going to push you, that are going to tell you the truth. I love to be around older people with wisdom. That's where I get a lot of my wisdom from. I appreciate you, Tremel, for always saying that. So that is, you need those people around you that are going to tell you the truth and be honest with you. And you need to be honest with yourself. Don't be afraid to stand up, to hold yourself accountable, and to fix those mistakes, to right your wrongs. And ultimately, that's what I believe is what it's all about: standing in your truth, being a person of dignity and integrity, and holding yourself responsible. And that's what it's all about. And just leading with love. We're not perfect people. None of us are. But just try to lead with love and love on each other. So that's all I got for you.
Wow, truly appreciate the wisdom you just shared with the audience. Thank you so much, my sister. Coming to my sister Grace. Man, phenomenal show. What are your final thoughts for the audience?
I enjoyed everybody, and again, it's so wonderful to be around like-minded people, because it's not always right. I mean, it's true. It's not. You always got to hold yourself back sometimes. But anyway, so my last thoughts are: when you stand in your truth, you stand in your power, right? So when you hiding your truth, I wrote the statement down while we were talking. I said hiding the truth results in self-abandonment, which affects your integrity and your health. So you have to reclaim that, right? And give birth to your voice by standing in your truth. See, truth does not need to be defended. You don't have to stand it. Be, like Carl was saying, he just was quiet and the truth came out. Truth will always roar like a lion. Truth defends itself. So if you're going through something where somebody's talking about you and it's not true, you don't have to be this loud person, obnoxious, screaming, fighting. Just be quiet. Be quiet. Because God Himself is the Spirit of truth. The Holy Spirit is referred to as the Spirit of truth. It will come out eventually. So that's what I've learned in my life. Because if I want to maintain my peace, shut up. Don't say a word. And it's worked. Like, honestly, this is the most quiet I've been in my whole life. I don't need to fight. So, because the truth will come out eventually. So that's what I do at this point. Like, why did it take so long? I'm like, if I had this in my freaking 30s, I'd be a bad lady. Work in progress.
Simply amazing, my sister. Thank you so much for your final thoughts. Greatly appreciate you. And Carl, what are your final thoughts, man? What a phenomenal premiere show, man. I mean, it's like Voltron. It's like everyone is formed this amazing robot that's unbeatable. The way everybody's just dropping knowledge, man. Well, I mean, what are your final thoughts?
It's a phenomenal show, absolutely, ladies. My sisters will definitely appreciate everything you guys, the wealth of knowledge, wisdom you dropped. Definitely, people will find some things to take away from here that'll benefit them going forward. But truly, like I said, it's just I think the simplicity is one of those shows where you just have to. You got to think about it. Like I said, know your worth, know your value system, know who you are as an individual, and at the end of the day, maintain that. Set good boundaries, and set boundaries that you can maintain. Don't set something because it sounds, learn who you are. If you're somebody who just came out of a divorce or out of a long relationship or some of the things, you have to learn yourself again. That's what I want to say. You have to learn yourself again. You got to learn. You got to learn it, who you are, and by doing that, you'll put yourself in a position for someone else to learn you. Because if you don't know who you are, you don't know how valuable you are. You don't know what you're worth. Nobody else is going to know. They can't appreciate. How can you appreciate something how can somebody appreciate you if you don't appreciate yourself?
Wow.
How can somebody want to be with? I mean, I would never want to be with somebody who doesn't value themselves or appreciate themselves. If you're constantly tearing yourself down as an individual, nobody wants to be around what they call a party pooper. No, they don't want to be around that. And so you have to really understand who you are, what you are, and take that time, heal, do the work, focus on who you're supposed to be. And then when you get to where you're supposed to be, you'll be ready to have the right person to come into your life.
Yeah, simply amazing, man. Very well said, my partner. And before I provide you with my final thoughts, if you're now joining us and you would like more of DBDS Live, make sure you go to our DBDS Live channel. Hit that subscription link so you don't miss these amazing guests and these great conversations. Not only that, but if you want to hear us, not just see us visually, but make sure you go to Amazon Music, Podbean, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. We are there as well. And a big special shout out to my sister Jasmine Cross for finding her soulmate, finding her better half. Greatly appreciate you. As she mentioned, with the DBDS group, the topics and podcasts, it has helped her in the process. So we're extremely grateful. And also, I just want to thank this amazing panel for sharing their wisdom, which will help our fellow brothers and sisters to find their potential partners. And if you're new to DBDS, and if you like this video, please, make sure you go to paypal.me/DBDS LLC. So if you want to donate, any amount is truly appreciated, which will help us to grow. And we will continue to do our part to help create healthy monogamous relationships. So once again, thank you. So I'm going to provide you with my final thoughts. My final thoughts for today's show is, if you don't know your worth, no brother or sister will tell you what you're worth, which puts you at a disadvantage. And by not telling you what you're worth, the reality is you will accept less than what you deserve. But the truth of the matter is, your self-worth is not determined by you, by other people. It is actually determined by you, because low self-esteem is a perception problem, a perception that must be changed from within to become a better you in order to attract a better partner, right? So once again, I want to thank this panel and much love to the DBDS family.
Okay.
Take it away, Mel.